welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today we're going ahead and doing a speed build video, and I haven't actually finished the build at the point of time when I'm recording the voiceover, but I can only imagine that this video is a long one. So get some snacks, get a drink, get a blanket, get comfy, because this is going to be a long video, I imagine. I'm recording the voiceover beforehand because I'm starting to feel a little bit sick, so I'm wanting to record all my videos that need a voiceover or whatever as soon as possible before my throat gets too sore. So if some videos in the future don't have voiceovers, that's why I have recorded a little bit of a replacement clip that just says pretty much like, hi, sorry, bye, so that there's at least something on each of my videos, because I don't like to leave them completely without a voiceover. Like, I don't like doing videos with just music. I like to always try and intro and outro it just to make it a little bit more personalized, because that's what I prefer watching. So I hope you guys appreciate that and like that. But I unfortunately can't do voiceovers for all of my weekend videos coming up just because my throat's going out, like you probably just heard then. Anyway, the reason why I really wanted to film a voiceover today, this afternoon, before I finish this build is number one, because I know my voice is going out and I won't be able to if I don't film it now. But number two, because I have a very interesting story to tell you. For the first little bit, I am going to talk about the build, the premise of the build a little bit. And because I haven't edited it, I'm not watching it live while I'm doing this. So I'm not going to be talking about specific things. I'm just going to talk about my general idea for this build. So as you have probably figured out by now, this build video is a renovation of the lot on the Realm of Magic. So when you're in like the new Realm of Magic game pack, there is Glimmerbrook. You travel to the Realm of Magic through the magical portal. Once you get there, you are automatically loaded on a lot, which is just like the Magic Realm lot. Like, I don't think it has a name other than that. So it's just the only interactable, buildable lot. There are other points in the Realm of Magic, but they aren't buildable. You can't edit them. They're sort of just background stuff, and you can interact with a couple of things over there, but like this lot is the main lot. It's the hub of the Realm of Magic. So I decided that I wanted to renovate it because I was finding it kind of hard to play in the Realm of Magic LP with the way the lot currently was. The main reason for that is that it wasn't very aesthetically pleasing. It didn't look very nice. And also because it wasn't entirely functional in my mind. Overall, it is a functional lot. You can go there, you can satisfy all your Sims needs, and you can do everything pretty much that you need to do in the Realm of Magic game pack. But for me, it wasn't exactly what I imagined it to be. Because it is the only lot in this world, I imagined it would just be a little bit more. And I don't know what I expected, but I hope that this build reflects what I did expect. So essentially what I wanted to do is make this build be more of a hub, like a general hub for this place. It can have lots of different facilities there. So it has a non-functional restaurant, but you can pretend, you can play pretend. It has a like kitchen, it has bathrooms, it has a library, a study area, it has a dueling area, which has a viewable like courthouse kind of situation from above, because before that level was just completely useless and empty. So I sort of tried to create it as like a dueling area where the different sages could sit up above in like a VIP area with like their best pals, and then all the commoners would sit around, and then the two dueling people would fight down below and they would watch from above, because I thought that would be really cool. And then in that area, there's a bit of a bar situation, and then there's the restaurant, and then I do a bit of a gardening like area out on the porch where the Sims team originally had that garden cauldron area. I made a bit of an outdoor study area there. And then also the main thing that I wanted to renovate this build for was because I thought that the Realm of Magic would be the perfect place to have a little motel. Sort of like if the Realm of Magic lot was a hotel that was multi-purposeful. So in a hotel, you can have a restaurant, you can have a library, you can have a study area, you can have outdoor seating and whatnot, and you can even have a function room. I doubt any hotels in real life have a dueling area, but it's the Realm of Magic, so we can play pretend a little bit. So when you walk into this lot, You will head to your right, and that is where you'll find the reception desk for the Realm of Magic Hotel. When you go into there, there'll be a little seating area with a fire, there's some bookshelves and stuff. You can sit there and relax while your room's being cleaned or while you're waiting for anyone else you're staying with or whatever. You can sit down there and enjoy a nice drink, a nice book, and sit by the fire and just chat with other Realm of Magicians. There is also a bathroom down there for hotel guests, and there is a little reception desk area which I worked really hard on and I'm really proud of, that I imagine some real snooty receptionist sits at and judges who can and cannot stay in what rooms depending on like their magical tier or something. Then you head up this staircase, up 2 flights of stairs I think, and then you can access the fighting like dueling area if you want from there, or you can go up another level to the hotel. The hotel is essentially 4 independent rooms that basically have like a bed and a bathroom. So if you're staying in the Realm of Magic, you have somewhere to sleep and somewhere to shower and go to the bathroom and relax and whatnot. And I imagine that they would also do room service from the little mini dining area that I had set up, like the little restaurant might do room service to the hotel rooms. That's sort of what I had imagined. So the reason why I did this was because when I was traveling to the Realm of Magic with our sim, Katrina Moon, she was just always getting tired and I was having her sleep on benches and couches and whatnot, but it just wasn't fulfilling her needs. And I know there is a potion or a spell or whatnot that can fulfill your needs, but sometimes you just want your sim to sleep through the night kind of thing. So I decided to go ahead and make 4 very different rooms. 2 of them are quite luxurious. One of them is more like a honeymoon suite, whereas the other 2 luxurious ones are more for like families or if you had a group of friends. And then there is one littler room that's like the cheapest one. I imagine that's the one where the receptionist shoves the people she doesn't like, and they're all color coordinated and themed. So I imagine when you stay here, the receptionist tells you like you're staying in the pink room or the yellow room or whatever. And there's also some items up on that floor that is just for hotel guests. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing this build. It was a sort of build where I was playing on this a lot and I actually felt like physically inclined to fix it, and I had a lot of fun. I used a lot of creativity and logic and I just had a lot of fun with this build, so I hope that you like it. Once it's done, it will be on the gallery, so if you'd like to download it, my ID is Bree Simulated, just like here on YouTube. Or if that doesn't work, because sometimes it doesn't, just try searching the hashtag Bree Simulated and you might be able to find my build or at least my account through that way. Moving on to the storytime portion of this video. I hope my voice isn't getting too raspy, but I really wanted to tell this story before I officially lose my voice. So I told this story briefly and over time on Twitter, but I just wanted to tell it all in one place, sort of just to get my frustration out, and also because some of you guys said you were interested in hearing it. So this is the toilet saga. If you're uninterested in my toilet story, feel free to click off, I understand, or mute it and watch it with a music or whatever. After this point, I'm just going to be telling this story and then going into music anyway. So, okay. Basically, if you didn't know, we were previously living in a little unit and we decided to move into more of a house in a nicer neighborhood and basically just change our living situation. We are renting. So we went ahead and applied for a new rental and we got it. So I don't know how it works in other countries, but in South Australia, in every rental I have lived in, what you do is when your lease starts and 2 weeks, so basically you have 2 weeks to do it, you fill out an entry inspection report, an entry condition report. They call it a couple of different things, but basically it's you go around the house and you look at everything and you document anything wrong with the house upon those 2 weeks, right? So it's anything that was already there that you're noticing over the course of your first 2 weeks in the house. If you're noticing a crack in the wall or a tile that's loose or a stain in the carpet, a mark on the wall that wasn't there, that was there from the previous tenants, or any other kind of damage, problems, blemishes, if the house was dirty when you moved in, anything at all, you need to state it in that report. It is an official, very important formal documentation of the house. So basically the reason for doing this is if you move in and there is an issue, they will go ahead and fix it, hopefully before you move in or very soon at the beginning of your lease, depending on how like drastic it is. So for instance, when we first moved into our very first unit, there was a crack in the sink and then the water from the sink would leak onto the floor. They fixed that in like the first week. Whereas we also had another problem with like the shower curtain rod. They waited a couple months to fix that one. So it all just depends on the severity and how busy the rental like place is and how much it bothers you and whatnot. So when we first moved into this house, there were a lot of problems. There usually are with rentals just because a lot of the problems are extremely minor. They don't impact your daily life. So the rental team never really fixes them unless they get a real big problem. So it's just important to report them so that then you don't end up being charged for it. For instance, in the very room I'm sitting in now, there is a big, huge stain when you walk straight into this room. But that stain doesn't impact my ability to like get in the room or live or anything like that. And in order to get it removed, I'm pretty sure they would need to remove the whole carpet. So that would be really inconvenient for us because it would mean we'd have to like move everything out of the room, vacate the area for however long it would take to get the carpet reinstalled and whatnot. So it is just much easier for them to probably not fix the carpet because it's really not that big of a deal. But something that is a real big deal is the fact that when we first moved into the house, we noticed that the toilet in the ensuite, like the toilet that connects to the master bedroom, constantly was making a noise. It was making like a trickling noise, and when you looked into it, it was like the bowl was constantly filling. Like water from the top of the toilet was constantly going down into the bowl, like as though it was constantly being flushed. So we looked online and tried to do a couple of things that were suggested and nothing seemed to really be working. So we wrote it down in the entry condition report that the ensuite toilet is constantly running. Basically what happened from there was we reported it, and on the day that I sent them the report via email, I called my property manager at the time and said, hey, just letting you know, all the issues on there are pretty minor, but there is one major issue that we really want to get fixed before we go on an international trip because we really want to get it fixed so it doesn't waste water. And I told her that the toilet was constantly running, that we needed to have a plumber come look at it, and that I wanted it to be fixed very soon because it was wasting a lot of water. She said, okay, great, I'll organize that. If you could just email that through to me, we can organize it. So I emailed her it through. I had the original record in the inspection report. I have record of me calling her, and I have record of me emailing her about the issue. So there's 3 places of record of this toilet being broken. So I also want to point out that at this stage, the toilet being broken is not our fault at all. It was already a fault before we moved in, and it was mentioned in the inspection report, which is filled out in the first 2 weeks of your lease starting. We only moved in like I think 3 days before the entry condition report was due. So we hadn't lived there for that whole 2 weeks, if that makes sense. So what happened was eventually a plumber gets organized. It was such a mess to organize. It was like they had forgotten and I had to remind them. And then we had 2 property managers, a male and a female. And the male one was giving me some major sass. And he said, the reason why it hasn't been organized is because you haven't emailed it through. You only mentioned it in the entry condition report. You need to also email it through. And I was like, I also called and emailed. So like, why wasn't it being organized? And so it turned out what had happened was I had emailed my property manager all the pictures of the inspection report. Then she said that the email was too big and it was being kind of laggy. So could I please mail it to her? So I ended up mailing it to her, and that copy arrived a couple days later. She lost that. She lost it. And that is why they were thinking that I hadn't reported the toilet being broken, but I had. And not only had I, so basically at this point it had been reported 4 times. It had been reported in the entry condition report that I'd emailed to her, in the entry condition report that I had mailed to her, via telephone, and via another email. So there were 4 documented places of me reporting this toilet being broken, and they were still saying that I hadn't told them that it had been broken and that I wasn't giving them enough information or whatever. So I sent him all of this, and he was like, okay, the plumbers are going to call you soon. So the plumbers called me, we booked it in. That was a whole nother drama, but whatever. Thankfully, my roommate could be home to monitor them, like, because you had to have someone home to let the plumber in. And we weren't currently actually living at the house yet, like full time. We were still between our other place, and I was working in my hometown. So I was out of town, and he had to come and monitor the plumber being there to let them in and whatnot. And basically, my roommate said the plumber walks in, doesn't even turn off the water or anything, lifts up the toilet lid, like of the top of the toilet, pulls out with his bare hands a air freshener that the previous tenants had put in the top of the toilet and said, aha, that's your problem. This was in here when it's not meant to be. And then he threw it in the bin and left. That's all he did. He didn't even check to see if the leak had stopped or whatever. That was it. And my roommate was like, so the problem's fixed now? And he's like, yeah, mate. Like, that would have been the problem. Easy job to fix. It happens all the time. People put things in there and it, like, makes the toilet overflow because it can't flush properly. Now that this is out, the toilet will be great. It won't have any problems. And we were like, okay, cool. Thank you. About a month later, I get a bill for $99 for the cost of the plumber. May I remind you that we hadn't put the air freshener in there. The previous tenants had. And we had reported it in our entry condition report before we moved in. So why were we being charged for the plumber? So I email back, very that. It wasn't my property manager who emailed me the invoice. It was the finance dude or whatever. So I emailed the finance dude and I'm like, hey, why am I being sent this invoice? We reported it on X date. Like, it was reported in our entry condition report. We shouldn't be charged for this because it's the tenant's fault. And he said, what are you talking about? Such and such, the male property manager, told me that you didn't report it until this date, which was like 2 months later. And I said, that's strange because insert 4 different types of evidence here. And I sent him all the evidence. And he was like, yes, that is very strange. Let me chase up on that. And basically, it turned out that because my other female property manager had lost the report that I mailed to her, when she found it, they didn't do the paperwork for the toilet repairs until after she had found it, which was about a month after I had sent it to her and reported it. And at that point, when she found it, the toilet had already been fixed. But she didn't process the toilet fixing paperwork until she found the thing I'd mailed her, like the report I'd mailed her, because I think she needed information from the report to put on the repair slip or whatever. So anyway, she had reported it like a month after everything had already been sorted. And so the finance dude thought that we had only gotten it fixed really recently and that we'd only reported it about a month after we moved in, which isn't the case. We'd technically reported it before we even used the toilet, right? So the finance dude is like, you're correct. You shouldn't have to pay for that. I'll chase it up. About a week later, I get an email saying, hi, my name is such and such. I am your new property manager. And I'm like, oh, hi, lovely to meet you. You know, that's great. But what happened to the old property managers? And I said about how I was currently dealing with the female and male property manager and the finance dude on this ongoing toilet plumber issue. Should I email them and call them because I had their numbers and emails and stuff? Or should I just refer to this issue through you from now on? And she said, you're like the 2 male and female property managers aren't here anymore, but finance dude still is. And I was like, did they get fired because of me? Well, not because of me, because of their like wrongdoings, but because of my interaction. Like, I could have just whatevered and just paid the $99, but I was like, this isn't my fault. I'm not paying it. You need to fix it up and pay for it yourselves or get the previous tenants to, right? So essentially, I imagine they'd done worse things. Like, surely if they'd mucked up my toilet repair, they'd been mucking up other things as well. But I was like, oh my God, did I just get some people fired? Like, I feel kind of bad. And yeah, she was like, you can still talk to finance dude about it and me, and we'll work it out. So eventually, finance dude was like, hey, you don't need to pay that bill. It's all good. But he hadn't replied to me for ages. So I sent him a whole heap of like documentation from the Renters Union of South Australia saying that I shouldn't have to repay this bill and whatnot. And he replied like 30 seconds later saying, oh, yes, of course not. Like, you definitely shouldn't. No, 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 it's not your fault at all. Like, the end. And I think that like, I wasn't threatening him by any means, but by like bringing up the fact that it would be illegal for them to charge me for it, he was like, oh snap, I better like silence this real quick. So I thought from there it was all good. Then randomly one day, I had an inspection on this day. I came home from uni and I checked the mailbox before going inside, ready to do some cleaning before my inspection started. And I have a letter from my real estate agents. And it says in there, you have an overdue invoice for such and such plumbers for $99. And I was like, no, I freaking do not. And I was about to get so mad and email finance dude and be like, why did you send me this? But my property manager, the new one, walks in and I'm like, hey, I got this really, really weird letter. Like, and I explained to her the situation and she took the letter off me and she was like, yeah, they must have sent this by accident. Don't worry about it. Like, you don't need to pay that. And then she took away the letter and then that was it again. So I thought. On Monday, I think, I had to fill out a card for our recycled water. So basically what you do is you enter in the amount of like liters that your water system has used, you take a photo of it and you send it to the council. I did that. I go to work and our water meter is in a bush, so you have to like stick your phone in there and take a photo of it to get the reading. So I'd done that, filled it out and sent it to the council. I go on my lunch break and I have an email from the council saying, hi, we have flagged your water usage as unusually high. You're using like an unusual amount of water. This could be indicative of a leak or of a problem with irrigation or of a constantly running toilet. And I'm like, because the toilet's still making the same noise it was before the first plumber came, right? Like, it hasn't stopped making that noise. But we just trusted that the plumber knew better than us. Like, we just thought, okay, the plumber's right. You know, he has a freaking plumber's degree or whatever you need to get to be a plumber. Surely he knows better than me. At the time, 18-year-old girl who has never touched a toilet other than to use it, right? My only experience with repairing toilets is in The Sims. So I thought he knew better than me. Turns out he doesn't. And turns out our toilet was still broken. So we did an experiment basically where once my roommate got home, I told them to take another photo of the meter before they used any water. And sure enough, it had gone up about 150 liters during the day. That's a lot of wasted water. And I'm really mad about it. Not just financially, because it cost us money on water bills that we shouldn't have had to pay, but environmentally, that's a lot of water. And I know it's recycled water, so it's not as bad because the water is just going to be recycled anyway. But I was just like, damn, that's a lot of wastage of finances and of like water for no reason other than the plumber couldn't do his job properly. Anyway, so then I email all this information from the council to my real estate agent saying, hey, you know how that plumber came and fixed the toilet? Well, it turns out he didn't. We still have a leak. The council is saying it needs to be fixed because it's wastage. The end. And that day, someone from the council came around and had a look at my meter. They inspected for any other leaks. And then they came and looked at the toilet and said, yep, it's definitely the toilet. So then we arranged a plumber. The plumber came this morning and looked at it. And he goes, so what seems to be the problem? And I said, okay, so basically it... And then I was silent and just pointed at the toilet. And it's making this trickling noise like someone's peeing into it, but no one's there. And he was like, oh my God, wow, that's got a really bad leak. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We told the plumber this, who came originally. And he's like, wait, another plumber's already looked at this? And I'm like, yeah. And he just like pulled out an air freshener and said that was a problem and then left. He didn't even turn the water off. And this plumber was just like astounded. He was like, no way was that guy a real plumber. He must have just been like a random handyman, like blah, blah, blah. and he basically fixed my toilet. It's all good now. It doesn't make the noise. And he said that because the first plumber definitely didn't fix it, he can attest to that. I shouldn't have to pay the costs of any of the plumbing, and that hopefully they should reimburse me for any water fees that we had to pay that we shouldn't have had to pay. So, fingers crossed that that happens. I doubt it will. At this stage, I'll just be happy if they don't charge us for the plumber fee, because I know that's a lot of money. I'm okay to not get a refund on the water bill or whatever, because I feel like even though the first plumber should have fixed it, when we noticed it was still running, we probably should have spoke up. But I think we were just scared at that stage because we kept on being treated like, because we were young, we were stupid, we didn't know what was what, and they kept on like just sort of playing us around with the repairs. So we sort of felt a bit embarrassed to keep on reporting it after a plumber had already been. And especially because they were threatening to make us pay the charges, I felt especially scared to ask them to send out another person, because then I was like, then they're just going to make me pay it again. But I'm so glad that everyone seems to be on our side so far. And I'll keep you guys updated on the rest of that story. I don't know if there's any of this build left by this point. If there is, cue the music. If not, I hope that you enjoyed this build. If you want to download it, it will be on the gallery. My ID is Bree Simulated. Until next time, I hope you have a very snazzy day, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, guys!